Hey, riding side saddle, it's Lisa.
And Tammy. And we have a guest today.
Hooray!
I know, it's my very good friend Rhonda.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Ronda.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
So excited to be here.
Are you?
100%.
The most high-class thing you've done today, isn't it?
I bet.
Absolutely. So luxurious.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Right.
We're not even in the Jeep today. It's the Ford Escape.
Or escape.
She probably wants to escape.
Well,
Will she?
She may want.
she's your friend. She knew what she was in for.
She did.
It's
Rhonda
true.
is our binge listener. We figured out
Yeah,
who it was.
it's me.
She admitted. She confessed that she's the binge listener.
Can I tell my story about podcasts
You
real
can,
quick?
of course.
So,
Absolutely.
When
Feel
you first
free.
gave me the snack of your podcast.
Yeah,
and you
before
said,
when it was just an idea
right,
still.
it was not published, and you
Yeah.
said, "Oh, where do you listen to your podcast?" And I said, "I've never listened to a podcast," and you were like, "No way," which is the truth. Never listened to a podcast, and long story short, I missed my friend Tammy so much. I missed her voice, her laugh, so I started to listen to her podcast, and I'm a fan, and now I'm a
And
guest,
now
and
she's
I'm
here.
so excited.
Yay!
Do it, girl.
She's no longer a podcast virgin.
I'm not.
No. And she's on a podcast. Like,
Right.
this is a big
I'm on
year
a
for Rhonda.
podcast.
Yeah.
You're going around the bases pretty fast,
Hey,
Rhonda.
man.
Once she,
Hey!
The topic we discussed.
I
What
told you.
happens in the planning session stays in the
I told you.
planning
We
session.
go rogue.
It's true. It's true.
yeah.
All right, let's do
Yeah,
it.
it's funny. Well, I think we should start with how Rhonda and I met. So, Rhonda, the yarn store.
I owned a yarn shop.
Yeah,
For 15
yarn
years.
shop for 15 years. So one day I went in. I had been to.
May I interrupt you to say that we tell this story very differently? But go ahead, Tammy.
Oh yeah, you were going to
you-
tell
are
it
you
from
gonna
my
flip-flop?
perspective. That's
Yeah,
right.
I
You should tell it from my side. Go ahead.
And
You're
make sure to-
Tammy.
Make sure to animate really well with it, too.
Nobody else can see that, but be sure to
Take
do
my
it.
jacket off here and get comfortable.
Inflection with your voice, you know.
100%.
Set the stage.
It's Tammy's version of how we met. So I owned a yarn shop in Hartford, Wisconsin for 15 years, and this lovely lady came into my shop. And
Wait, this is my story.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you're
Well, I'm the lovely lady
You're-
coming into, but I'm the lovely lady. You're supposed to be the
Oh, I'm-
lovely lady. You're
Oh,
telling
I'm
it from
telling
my.
it from your perspective.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
I'm Tammy, the lovely lady.
I am
Unless
a-
you just want to tell your story, and that's fine too. Then I'll tell mine.
I'll tell
the
it
real
way
story.
I think you. The way I think you think it went down. Tammy came into my shop, and I greeted her like I greet everyone, and she said, "Hey, do you have ladder yarn?" And if anyone who doesn't knit, ladder yarn was a novelty yarn that you made these really pretty scarves out of. My response to Tammy was, and I thought I was just telling the facts of my store. So I just said, I only carry natural fibers here, which is the truth. And the only reason I said that is because ladder yarn is never made from natural fibers. It's made out of nylon or polyester. So I was not dissing ladder yarn. I was not snubbing this girl. I was just letting her know that this is the type of yarns I carry. That being said, it could have come off a little bitchy, perhaps. It wasn't my intention. But Tammy went home that night and told her daughters, "That yarn bitch just snubbed me in her shop. Who does she think she is? She will not snub me. I'm going to go back there." But really what did happen was I'm saying it from your perspective. That could have come off a little bitchy, right? I never meant it to. I was
No.
just trying to let her know that these are the types of products
You won't
I carry.
find that here, right?
But here's what happened. Tammy wanted to make a blanket for one of her daughters, and I had to order yarn for her, and we did not know each other at all. Like, we had met once, and
The ladder yarn episode was
Yeah.
your first experience.
yes,
And then you
and
went,
then I ordered yarn for her, and then this is how I know that Tammy and I were supposed to know each other. So she came back with one of her daughters. Again, I don't know her, so I don't know who her daughter is or who this girl is. So I said to her, oh, your yarn's going to be in on Friday or whatever. And Tammy just like her eyes got really big and she kind of raised her eyebrows without saying a word because she didn't want to ruin the surprise in front of her daughter. And I've known her all of 1 minute,
One
right?
encounter, yeah.
And
Which wasn't great.
right.
One poor yarn choice encounter.
Right. And ladder yarn really is heinous, everybody. But anyway,
I'm going to tell my
Sarah's
version
gonna
when
tell
you're
her
done.
version. But Tammy just raising her eyes, I instantly knew what she was trying to say to me. Like, hey, don't ruin the surprise for my daughter. We were instantly connected.
Aww.
Amazing. And we've had a romance ever since. And she's one of my best friends. And
Yeah.
so grateful, Tammy, that I didn't snub you. And here's the thing.
Oh, you did. I'm grateful I came back.
Here's the thing. The reason
Gave you another chance.
Yeah.
The reason I don't think it really was a snub is, would you go back if somebody really snubbed? I wouldn't.
It was It was a challenge.
Okay, and you
That
are a
was a
challenger.
challenge.
I mean,
Yeah.
you do like to challenge. But
Yeah. So my perspective was I had been in Germany that summer, and I found, it was actually in Luxembourg, I found this really beautiful yarn. It was blue and pinks and corals and greens. It was really beautiful. And the reason it caught my eye is because in the display window, they had a scarf made like you do at a yarn shop to
Yes.
display your yarn, right? And look, you could make this fabulous project if you just buy this yarn. So I didn't know it was ladder yarn. I didn't know anything about anything. I just knew that was really beautiful. I knew how to knit barely, but I could make that particular scarf. So I think I've just come from Europe with this beautiful yarn.
No, Lisa.
This new hot fad.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not even in the States yet.
Oh, it had been and
was
gone
trending out,
already.
Lisa.
It was already on the way out. Again, I don't know this. I just know I've got this fabulous yarn from Europe, and surely my yarn shop, I know I've got a yarn shop in my town, my tiny little town.
Yes.
I'll go there. I bet she'll have it. Well, I walk in and we only sell natural fibers here.
Don't you love how she...
See, it's the inflection.
Yes.
Makes all the difference.
Well,
So,
pardon me.
how dare
And
you
to be
ask me
fair,
that?
she did say, I mean, your scarf is very beautiful, but
It was beautiful.
we only sell natural fibers here. So about once a year, I wear that scarf when I'm going to see Rhonda, just so we can, laugh and giggle
and we are
about the
grateful
story.
to Ladder Yarn. 'cause
Absolutely. We wouldn't have met.
We would never have met.
That's
so
done it.
Right.
thank
It
goodness
is.
for Ladder Yarn.
Right.
She almost sneers a little bit when she says it still.
It's a little
Or-
It's
painful.
caught in my throat a little bit.
Thank goodness for ladder yarn. Did you ever think you'd be saying that?
No, I did not. I did not.
But the second part of that story is exactly right. I had gone in, my Emily was, her and, at the time they were, I don't even know if they were engaged. Emily and Blake were planning this grand adventure. They were going to move far away, and I said, well, I have to make her a blanket. She is going to miss her mother. This is as close to a hug as I'm going to be able to give her. So I'll go to my yarn shop downtown, and this will be the second chance. I will give Rhonda another chance.
Listen here.
Yeah. So I went in and I said, listen, I don't know. This is how I see Emily. She's fun. She's vibrant. She's like a party, just in all herself. So she helped me find some yarn. She said, well, that's going to be really heavy. It'll be like she's wearing a lead blanket. I said, I don't care.
That's the way my hugs feel.
Exactly. She will need that. And this is exactly right. So I ran out of yarn because it was a crochet pattern, which just gobbled up yarn. And so she had to order more so I could finish the blanket. And Emily still has it and did not move away. And has since asked me to make her one that's not so bright because I see her as very bright.
Orange, had flecks of color. It
And
was
blue.
beautiful.
It was really beautiful, but it was bright.
How nice.
Yeah.
But she has since asked me to make her one that's maybe a little more toned down, that goes with the decor in her house, not so much how I see her, but how she prefers her environment to be. So
Fair enough.
yeah, so
That's our story.
That
And who
is our
else
story.
can say that they met because of ladder yarn?
I
no one on the
I don't
planet.
I don't think
Zero.
so. I don't
know,
think so.
I know
Yeah.
nobody who has that same
I
type
don't
of
either.
story.
Yeah.
I probably
So-
wouldn't have gone back. Honestly,
No, you probably wouldn't do
That's why I think it was not a snub, because you're
It
right.
was.
I wouldn't go
It
back
was,
either.
and because I said to my kids, they were like, "Mom, that wasn't very nice." I said, "I know. I think she snubbed me, but I am not going to let her
She's
judge
not
me
gonna
based
win.
on one bad yarn choice. I didn't know anything about yarn. I'm not letting her judge me based on that. I am going back," and I did.
I would have drove to another town.
I know. That bitch.
I don't know. It's kind of a yarn desert around Hartford, so.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great
That's our
story.
story.
It is our story, and we have been great friends ever since.
Yeah.
We've traveled together. We've had lots of fun adventures,
Yeah.
and it's been good.
We're in the Short Girls Club. Or
We are in the
under
Short Girls.
5'3".
Yeah.
I mean,
Special girls.
that is true too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's been good.
Yeah.
So, the reason why we asked Rhonda to join us is because this yarn store that we're talking about, her yarn shop, that story is such a great story. We've talked a little bit about doing things like create just to create and dream just to dream, and the next
Follow the sign, he said.
Yes, right.
Don't get in your own way.
Right. Right. Well, Rhonda's yarn shop is all of that.
Oh,
So,
that's so
you
sweet.
have the floor.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, this is the story of how the yarn shop came to be. My professional career, I was always in corporate America. I was a controller of a $50 million corporation.
Yeah.
And when I was 39, I decided when I turned 40, I want to create my dream job in my hometown, right? Like the first 40 went like that, right?
Yeah,
like
as they
it goes
do.
so fast.
As they do.
And do I wait till I'm 60 till I make a change? I mean,
Right.
so I thought, this is what I need to do. I'm going to create my dream job. So it was around June of '07, and I said, that's it. I'm going to open up a yarn shop. I started to look at venues and places to rent, and I found a couple in Hartford and started to look around at what was all involved. I went to a couple other shops, and I actually went to one here in West Bend, and the owner was really forthright and told me everything that was involved and how much it was going to cost.
It was an
And
existing yarn shop.
It was, yeah.
Yep.
And really, I was going to be, in theory, a competitor of hers,
Yeah.
but she was really, really forthright, and I really appreciated that. And so she told me really what was involved and what it was going to cost, and then
So she kind of gave you some mentorship. a
she
bit.
did, and I love that because later on I felt like I really became a champion of women. I want to elevate women,
Absolutely.
and it really is what I feel like I'm about at this point in my life. But anyway, it was way more money than I ever thought possible,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh,
It's yarn. How can it cost
I
so much?
cannot do this. And so I became what I call my own dream stealer. I was like, I can't do this. How can I afford it? I had a very well-paying job, and I'm going to give up this salary. And so
just that level of security feeling,
Yes,
right?
For sure.
exactly. And so
And you had a lifestyle built around that
I did, yeah.
that salary.
And so at that point, dream was over, right? That was the end of it. It's like, okay, I'm going to go back to this job that I didn't hate, but I didn't love. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely
Right?
For
makes
sure.
sense.
And
It met the
It checked some
expectations.
boxes, but it wasn't filling you up.
right.
Right. yeah.
And but I thought, this is all I can do. I can't afford this. I can't quit this job. Dream over. So we'll fast forward like 2 months later. It's October of '07, and my son was 4 at the time, and he had learned to ride a bike on a Friday night. And so the next day, Saturday, we were going to bike into town and go to Mickey's and get custard as a big celebration for
Yeah.
learning how to ride a bike. And
And that is a relatively safe bike route, except for that little stretch from like your subdivision.
right, so I live in a subdivision, but I live in a
To the
subdivision
highway.
like out in the country. So
Yeah.
there's this tiny little stretch of country road, and when I say tiny, I mean like 300 yards. Like it's tiny.
Yeah.
So we had this little stretch of country road that we had before we could get to a sidewalk. And so my husband at the time said, hey, maybe you should walk your bikes on Lee Road
Across
instead
there.
of ride, because he's so little and he's such a new bike rider.
Sure.
And I completely agreed. I'm like, oh, you're right, we should. So we were walking our bikes, and my son was in front of me. And the only way I can describe this is it was like fast motion and slow motion at the same time. And so a car was coming towards us,
My
and
gosh, my heart just dropped.
yeah, and this is, Lisa, this is the way, that's the only way I can say it, is when people say your life flashes in front of your eyes, it 100% does, and it's
Instant.
it's like time. You're in this time warp, because like I said, it was like fast motion and slow motion all at the same time, and I knew she was going to hit us, and I knew there was nothing I could do about it. That's the part that was so crazy. And it was like we were a magnet for her. It was so bizarre. And so as all this is going through my brain, I also, this is what I'm thinking, is I'm going to start to cry when I tell the story, girls, but you're going to have to deal with it.
We cry all the time, Ronda.
Happens every episode.
While this is literally happening in a millisecond, all I can think now is I get 4 years on the earth with my son. Like that, this is the end. This is what God gave me. I'm going to get 4 years with this boy, and then it's going to be over. And so yeah, we were both hit by a 17-year-old girl talking on her cell phone, and we were thrown into a ditch, and it was, you know how they say, like, if your baby's trapped under a car, like a mom gets like superhuman strength.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that. Like I was also hit by a car, but no pain. And I mean, it was not about me. It was just about my son. And so she pulls over, she's screaming, I'm screaming, my son is screaming. It's just screaming and chaotic. And I thought my son was killed in front of my eyes, right? And all I can think about is, you've just killed my son. I'm going to kill you. Like, I thought I could choke the life out of this girl. Like, you've just taken my life away.
Right.
You've taken my baby away. But here's where my story changes and gets pretty amazing. So the car behind her, who saw the whole thing, right? Like, saw us get hit, he was a firefighter for 33 years and a first responder. And I know he was sent to me from heaven, from my dad. It was amazing, because number one, she could have driven off, right? Like it could have just been hit and run and she could have left. But I had this car behind me and a witness. And so...
But even more than a witness, you had somebody who knew how to help you
Exactly.
in the way you needed it when you needed it.
Absolutely. So it was complete chaos, screaming. If that man hadn't been there, I don't know what would have happened. I called 911, and maybe people don't know this because I didn't know this. I'm a woman, so I'm going to give locations, right?
Yeah,
and I'm destinations. So
right.
I called 911, and I just assume I'm talking to Hartford, right?
Yeah.
You're not.
You're not.
Oh.
It routes randomly in Washington County.
Oh, interesting.
I
So it's not someone from Hartford
It's
who knows what you're talking
right.
about.
So I call, and remember, this is 07, so I had like a flip phone, and
Yeah.
maybe we didn't have cell towers.
No
Right.
GPS.
So
yeah.
I call, and I said, my son was hit by a car. I'm on Lee Road by True Value. And the dispatcher kept saying, oh, ma'am, are you in front of your house? And I'm like, what? I said, no, I'm on Lee Road by True Value. Like, I thought I was telling her exactly where I was.
Yeah.
Because I think she's in Hartford, right?
And you're in a state of panic on top of
Oh my
yours.
God,
Yes.
Yeah.
totally. I
Like
kept thinking,
complete
why aren't you
trauma.
helping my son?
Right.
Yeah.
Why aren't you sending an
Right.
ambulance? She must have asked me 3 times. So this man that came, the firefighter that was behind her, he grabs my phone. First of all, he ordered the girl away from me. He was smart enough to get,
Oh, wow.
because I think he knew this mom's going to choke her
Right,
out. Like,
right.
he just
Yeah.
said, you stand down by your car. Because she was like, is he okay? Is he okay? She was just crazy, right? I mean, she just hit a little boy with her car,
Right,
understandably, right? So he ordered her away from me. He grabbed my phone. He said, We are south on Highway 83, west on Lee Road. Click, closes down the phone, just handles it, right? Like, because I couldn't communicate with the dispatcher.
Yeah, she wasn't hearing you.
She wasn't getting what I was saying, and he just knew, even though he can't hear the other side of it, he had to handle that. So he just commandeered the whole situation.
Wow.
He got the girl away from me. He communicated with 911. He triaged my son. And this is the most amazing part. I don't know how this guy was so calm and just knew exactly what to say. But he looked at my son and he said, it's going to get very loud here. And there's going to be a lot of sirens. And there's going to be a lot of people crowding around you. He said, but I will keep your mother's face in front of you the entire time. Like, he knew enough to tell my 4-year-old baby, I will keep, and he did. Like,
your mom is not leaving you. She
what
will be
an
right
amazing
here.
thing to say. Like, I wouldn't have even thought to say something like that. And he was right, because the road that we were on, the north side of the road is governed by the city of Hartford, and the south side of the road is governed by the town of Hartford. So Washington County Sheriff had to come out. The city of Hartford Police had to come out. The fire chief came out on his own on his day off, because it's a small town. An ambulance, a fire truck, a rescue squad. So there really were 6 vehicles with sirens.
And lights.
It's chaotic. It's loud. That was the most amazing gift he could have given my son and given
and
given to me, because he just knew that was something to say to this little boy. I will make sure your mom's face stays right in front of you the whole time. And he did. All these, first responders and paramedics are around me, because we don't know if my son is bleeding internally or what's going on.
Right.
And, you see your baby with a neck brace and he's on a flatboard and he's going into an ambulance. And yes, I was able to stay with him the entire time, and they let me ride in the ambulance with him.
I didn't know I was going to cry so much about yarn.
I know, right? Well, ladder yarn, I would cry all day long over that.
Wow. Like, I am speechless.
But it really is a good story. I mean,
of course it is.
Yeah.
Because of that.
So,
trauma.
Right. And so, remember, I had talked myself out of opening this shop, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't afford this, I can't do this. And my takeaway, of course, is that your life can change in 1 second, right?
Sure can.
Literally 1 second. And so, long story short, because we had bikes, my son was wearing a bike helmet.
Yeah.
Had we been pedestrians, my son would have been killed, because her passenger mirror cracked his head, and his helmet was cracked completely down the center.
Wow.
And the police chief asked if he could keep the helmet, because he wanted to take it to schools and talk to kids about safety of how it saved my son's life.
Yeah.
And we gladly gave it to him. And so anyway, we went to the hospital, and long story short, my son had a ton of bruises and scrapes on the right side of his body, and I was wearing shorts, and again, you get like this superhuman strength, right? So I didn't even know how injured I was.
Yeah.
And when I got there, the nurses kept saying, well, ma'am, do you want treatment? And I said, no, I don't want. Why would I want treatment? I'm staying with my son. Like,
I'm not in shock.
I was so in shock, Tammy. I said, I'm not leaving my son. Okay.
Right.
I don't care where you take him. I'm not leaving my son. Well, after a few hours of being there, I felt like I was knifed in the leg. I had a gash on my leg, and then they asked me again, ma'am, do you want treatment? And I finally said, I would take an ice pack.
Right?
And I did. I literally, that was my quote unquote treatment. I finally let them give me an ice pack for my leg, because it was, I had a big
Probably
gash on my leg.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, I was hit by a car too.
Right.
And about 40 miles an hour. So, the whole thing was so crazy. So my son was fine. I ended up having more injuries than he did later on. I really do think I was in shock for about 72 hours.
I can only imagine.
I have a big family. Jim, my husband, had a big family. So you tell your story over and over again. And
you relive it.
You're just telling it because it happened. But after about 72 hours, when it kind of hits you what you just went through.
Right.
I went back to work. My back went out at work. They had to call 911 and take me to a hospital.
gosh.
I had to, I ended up talking to a counselor about it because I feel like
That was a near-death experience.
I don't
so
want to use the word
traumatic.
PTSD because I feel like that's so disrespectful to people who really like have been through war or trauma. But the counselor suggested that I had a little PTSD because I carried a lot of guilt because I chose to put my son on that road, which I just felt so guilty about that. And but then one of my coworkers, I don't remember, somebody made the comment that, but you were a mom that was smart enough to have a helmet on your son. And so that
sure.
that ended up being my takeaway from that. It assuaged my guilt a little bit.
And can I just say,
Yeah.
I recognize the respect that you are having for people who have gone through war and things like that. PTSD can happen in traumatic situations, period. Like please don't minimize the experience that you had because somebody else can
right.
have PTSD.
You're exactly
You
right.
watched your son
Yes.
get hit by a vehicle and you were scared to death that he was gone.
Yeah. I really did think he was killed in front of my eyes. And
So you have every right to
Thank
qualify
you.
that as
Thank you.
PTSD.
Absolutely.
You're right. You're right. So we ended up, I ended up having more injuries than he did later on. And one thing that I did learn, you guys do talk about trauma on here a lot, but what I will tell you that I've learned about physical trauma is, you know how like, if someone's like drunk driving and they hit a car and they literally just get out of their car and walk away like with no injuries. The reason that happens is because number one, they're drunk, right? They don't see it coming. So their body doesn't process
Respond.
that trauma.
Right.
Versus me, when I see this car coming at us, your body just braces for it.
Yes.
And then the problem is it literally
It gets
stays
stuck there.
inside you.
Right.
Like it
Yeah.
attaches to you.
Yes.
And it manifests in headaches and backaches and depression and sadness, and it literally lives in your body.
Yes.
And I had to learn to release that because it was stuck inside me. And the sad thing, to this day, I live on a giant dead end. Like I live in a subdivision, but
cul-de-sac.
there's only one way in and one way out. I have to go on that road every day of my life. And granted, it's been 17 years, but I'm not lying. The first few years, it was just
I
like,
can only imagine.
I have to be on this road every day of my life. And I have to see those bikes in the ditch and my son in the ditch. And that was every time I closed my
So you're
eyes.
reliving that trauma every day.
I can't I can't go to work without it. I have to be on that road. And so
And your body responded to it every
Every
time.
day.
it did.
Yes.
That's
a real thing.
It
is a real
absolutely
thing.
did. I will tell you, this isn't funny, but it is kind of a little funny part of this story. So my poor husband, he was hunting at the time, literally about a mile or a mile and a half down the road. And again, it's so chaotic when you're in this and then you're in an ambulance and you don't know what's going on. And I remember the fire chief said to me, "Ma'am, is someone coming to pick up the bikes?" Like, I could give a flying fuck about these bikes.
Right.
But this is what I remember him saying. Like, he's just managing the scene,
yes,
right?
Right.
My poor husband. I called him on the phone and I said, "Jordan and I were just hit by a car and you need to come pick up the bikes." And I hung up the phone. Like something, I thought, the fire chief is saying this is so important. I feel, to this day, I feel so bad for him. He's probably like, what did she just say?
What the fuck?
The fuck
Right.
did she just say?
Right.
So as the ambulance is taking off down the road, the car comes flying. It's my husband. Comes flying down, like cuts the ambulance off, like turns to the road that we were on. And the ambulance driver is like, oh, and I said, "That's my husband." Like, I felt
Forgive
so
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
bad for him because I didn't explain anything.
Right.
I was just like,
Well, because you were in
And-
shock.
Right.
I was totally in shock, and it's ringing in my ears that apparently these bikes are very important at this point. Like, it
Right,
was
right.
like, ma'am, is someone coming to pick up the bikes? I'm just going to
don't
go to the
know.
ER with my 4-year-old right now.
Right.
You know,
Pick them up on our way back
Yeah.
if everything checks
yes,
out.
Right.
I could care less about
Yeah.
these bikes,
Wow.
right? So that was on a Saturday, and so obviously I'm off on Sunday. That Monday I didn't go to work, and I took my son to his own pediatrician and to a chiropractor and just had him checked out. And then I went back to work on a Tuesday because, you know, God forbid you don't do payroll or whatever, you know, you've just been hit by a car, but
Yeah.
you got shit to do.
Make
And-
the donuts. Make the donuts,
Right.
Rhonda.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went into the office and I just said to myself, I cannot work one more day in a job that does not bring me joy. I can't do it. Your life can change in 1 second. I will not work one more minute in a job that doesn't bring me joy. And I knew at that minute, I'm opening this yarn shop. That's what I have to do.
I have
And
goosebumps.
so
Me too.
I gave my notice and they're like, you can't leave. Like, I had a staff of 15 people. Again, I was the controller of a multi-million-dollar corporation. I had a lot of responsibilities, and I ended up giving my notice like December 15th, which is like unheard of for an accountant, right? Like, I get,
Yeah, at the end of the year.
I gave a 2-week notice, and they're like, you're not leaving. And I'm like, I am leaving.
Actually,
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're a person
Right.
who happens to do accounting.
Right.
Right.
And so I just knew this is what I need to do. And I don't even know how to describe it. It was just, I'm going to say revealed to me, and I don't know by whom, by what, the universe, God, I don't know. It was just revealed to me, you need to do this. And so with zero fear, and when I say zero fear, I mean with no fear, I opened that yarn shop. I gave up a very lucrative salary. I took a risk of selling high-end yarn in a town of 15,000 people.
Yeah.
And I knew that this is what I was meant to do, right? And so when I first decided that I was going to do it, my mother, who I love very much, who loves me very much, just came at me. What about insurance? How are you going to pay your bills? What if nobody comes? You know, on and on and on and on. And that's what I call a dream stealer. Like, that's someone not intentionally trying to steal your dreams, but they kind of are, right? Because
Yeah.
they're putting all this doubt in your mind when it really comes from their fears. Like,
Yes.
that's something that she wouldn't do, right? And so I just said, Mom, the money will come.
It's like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come.
It's exactly how I felt, Tammy.
Yeah.
The money will come. And you know what? I didn't really know if the money was going to come, but that's what played
You
in
just
my
had a calm.
it's what played in my
sense about
head.
it.
The money will come. And I will tell you, and Tammy knows this because she was a long-term customer of mine and a good friend of mine. That shop was created for a reason.
Oh,
like,
gosh, yeah.
I
There are so many friendships that have come out of that shop, out of that table in your
right
shop.
You can't even describe, like,
No.
these 4 walls created a space and a place and a safe place for people. I've launched knitting careers.
Yeah.
I've created so many friendships, multi-generational friendships, even outside of me. Like, people became friends, and then they became friends outside of my shop. And yeah, so that car accident, I had to go through that, because even though back in June I thought, oh, I'm going to turn 40 in January and I'm going to open my dream shop, I didn't have enough courage, what's the word, on my own to do it. I needed the smack from the universe, a literal smack, like
right.
on my body, to say, sister, your life
Be
can
done.
change
Yes.
immediately,
Yes.
right? Your life can change in 1 second. And are you going to be in a job that just doesn't raise you up, doesn't give you joy? No. The answer was no, I can't do it anymore. going to make my dream job. And it was a dream job. I was so fortunate to have that shop.
It was beautiful.
I got to hang out with my mother every day. And I know, I'm sorry, Tammy, I know we don't all have strong relationships with our mom, but
Bev is pretty amazing.
my mom had just retired from her career when I opened, and so it gave her a place to hang out. She was Grandma Bev to a lot of people, especially young people. I had a young knitters club, so I taught hundreds and hundreds of young girls how to knit, and everyone called her Grandma Bev, and she was friends with all of my friends. We called her the cleaner because Bev loves to clean. My God, Bev loves to clean, and so people would we'd have wine.
Ronda, I have my cup. Where should I put it? Oh, Bev will get it. Don't worry.
The cleaner will get it. So I was really blessed to be able to open that shop. I'm going to give you another.
And how many? I mean, really, like hours and hours and weeks and years worth of time that you spent with your mother that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Oh my God. I know how lucky I am. And I mean, and it went both ways. Like, I was so grateful that I was able to give my mother a place to feel like she had purpose, to hang out with me.
For sure.
She
could
summer,
fill in if you needed to be out for a day.
Yeah. And you know, the joke was you shop at your own risk when my mom works, so you're either going to be charged double or half. So
maybe it's a good day.
It could be a great
spin the wheel.
It could be a great day for you.
Are you a lucky winner or not?
She didn't love.
Somebody is going to be a lucky winner. It's either the yarn shop or you.
My mother is 84 years old. Okay, she did not love the cash register. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that was our running joke. You either get charged double or half. So
it reminds me, Rhonda, of when you talked about different generations and the friendships that were created and the Young Knitters Club. The impact that you had in making that decision, right, and opening the shop and creating the space for friendships and all of those things, that's still happening. Like the effect of all of the things that you did, not the space and maybe not the yarn specifically, but
the yarn was pretty great.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
It was beautiful.
Though the impact that those choices had for people,
the ripple effect.
It's still happening.
I remember, Tammy, what I told you when I closed my shop is that I know that my legacy is what you just said, is these friendships, people that would never have met, they all met because of me. And it's not like me, like I'm so great.
No.
It's that at that point in time that needed to exist. Originally for me, right? I had no idea what it was going to launch into because it's different
for the community, really.
Right.
I mean, you had people coming from West Bend and Slinger and Rubicon and from all over. It wasn't just like people in Hartford.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And what's so unique, and I didn't know this because I've never been a yarn shop owner before, but what's so unique about a yarn shop or a business like that is, like, if you go into a gift shop and they're beautiful, right? But are you going to chat up the other customers? Are you going to go out to dinner with them and know about their grandbabies and have these relationships? Like, a yarn shop is so different. Like, we're a
creative space.
The relationships,
right? But it's a creative space. So I mean, sure, it's just yarn and sticks, right? But what are you making? What's on your needles?
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
when strangers would walk in,
gosh,
knitters will just talk to each other and instantly bring them in.
For sure.
Yeah, I was really proud of that. That's going to be my legacy, is that I created friendships in this tiny little town.
Sure.
Plus, it taught a bunch of people how to knit, right? And we made beautiful things.
Absolutely.
And we drank copious amounts of wine and booze.
And coffee.
I love that.
Coffee.
Yeah.
And it was like Vegas. What happens in the yarn shop stays in the yarn shop.
Absolutely.
We have some stories in there, a ton of laughter.
It's alive.
A lot of
it is alive.
Yeah, and this sounds super dramatic, but I'm not making it up. I had one person tell me that I saved her life.
I believe that. I entirely believe that. I was going to say, do you realize that you could have saved someone's life through this process?
She absolutely was depressed, in a depression, and yeah, it was maybe about 8 months after I opened, she said to me, if you didn't open this shop, I don't know that I would still be here. Like, it just became a home away from home.
Sure.
And yeah, you can't know that stuff when you first do it. But like I said before, had I not had that accident and it was so crystal clear to me, this is what you need to do. And I was never going to be a millionaire owning a yarn shop in Hartford, Wisconsin. It was never about that.
It's much, much bigger than that.
Much bigger than
Oh,
that.
you can't put a price on what it became. And we talked, I don't know, here in our planning session about how we believe that the universe puts us exactly where we're supposed to be at the exact time. And I believe that 100%. And even the closing of my shop, which if I can talk about briefly.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So I was there for 15 years, which I think is pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
I mean, even just a small business owner in general.
Period. Right. And I'm sorry to
Yeah, it's
interrupt,
okay.
but one of the things that popped out to me right when you were talking about the story up front was the timeline. So 2007, right,
Yes.
is when you chose to do this. And we had a significant recession.
The economy tanked in 2008, for
Yes,
sure.
like,
yes, I opened
to-
in March of 2008.
to navigate through that,
Yes.
right? And even just stay afloat
Right.
at that point.
Right.
To be able to navigate through that during that time when everything was shutting
That's
its
a good point.
doors.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Thank
Like
you.
that all
Yes.
by itself.
Yeah, that's amazing that you bring that up, because that
And
was
then through
100%
COVID,
the
too.
truth. Yes.
Like, I mean, the two worst periods in our
Recent
certain
history,
Yes,
yeah.
right.
Right.
yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It stood out.
Yeah. So it was, God, it was such an amazing run. I'm so proud of that little shop. So after 15 years, and yeah, COVID didn't help. I mean, that wasn't
No.
a great time.
No.
Everyone, it's so funny. Most people thought that everyone started knitting and, oh, you must be so busy and, blah, blah, blah. And it really didn't translate that way. And that's okay. There's a lot of businesses that went
Sure.
under. I didn't go under. Persevered through that. But sadly, my best friend, my college roommate, was diagnosed with cancer at the end of December of last year. And she lives in Chicago. And again, when things become clear to you, you just let them be clear. Hopefully you let them be clear, right? And it just became so clear to me that I want to spend time with her, but I need to spend time with her. And if she had lived in Hartford or Milwaukee, it might be different, but she was in Chicago. So could I really realistically run a shop by myself and then be making trips down to Chicago? And I just decided that's what I want to do. And there were other factors too, but that's really what really put me over the edge. It's time for this story to close. Because this is a big one. Like, she needs me. I need to be with her and spend some time with her. And I will never regret that decision. I miss my shop, of course, but I will never regret that decision. And so I did get to spend some time with her. Sadly, she died in July, and obviously still no regrets. It was the right thing to do. And now I just want to find a purpose in honoring her and go forward from there. So that's where I'm at, and that's my story.
I love it. I love it. That is it's follow your dream plus.
It's bigger than that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's bigger. And I didn't know that story. I knew the story of how you met a little bit, but I did not understand the depth of what you would be sharing tonight. And I'm so grateful that you shared the story.
Thank you, Lisa.
It is, I imagined very similar to what you're talking about. Follow your dream, and your fear gets in your way, and dream stealers and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But the piece that this leaves me with is the level of impact. It could have been a toy store. It could have been a bubblegum shop. It could have been, but that aspect of being able to know and to follow through the joy for people, right? The relationships and the support, perhaps, and what impact that is having every single day still. Like, that's the piece that gives me chills down to my bone.
You know what's so great now is when I am just out and about in the community. Just yesterday, I was in a pick and save in West Bend, and I saw a woman. I don't know her name, but I 100% know you used to come to my yarn shop. And so
That's pretty cool.
literally, I said, "Hey, you used to come to my yarn shop," and she's like, "Yes."
Aww.
I mean, I see my former customers quite a bit, and that's pretty
That's
amazing.
really cool.
Because
It is.
I think people are always going to call it the yarn shop, no matter what business goes in there. I think for a lot of people, it'll
always be the yarn
right?
shop.
We'll always call it the yarn shop. So, yeah, it was a pretty special place because, like I said before, it's not like a business where you run in, you buy a card or a candle, and then you leave, right? Like,
Right.
people are rarely unhappy in a yarn shop because we're surrounded by beautiful things. We're so excited to create with our hands. Like, I just feel like we were created. I feel like everyone needs to create. I feel it's part of who we are, right? We came from creation. We have this need to create, and particularly with our hands, I think.
Wow, that's so profound.
That is.
I never ever thought of it like that.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. I've always thought of it like yeah.
That got me.
Oh. So, yeah, I think most humans, and not that everyone can knit or whatever.
Creation happens in different
exactly.
ways.
And
You say all the time, you create in the kitchen.
Right.
Right.
Josh does too.
I mean, look
Yeah.
at men with, table saws, and I mean,
Absolutely.
men are
Sure.
artists too. They do it more with tools, but I think humans have this need to create. And you're right. It can be singing, it can be playing the piano. We're creating something. We're adding to the universe. We're kind of giving back. I remember this quote I saw a long time ago, and it said, "Life is God's gift to you. How you live it is your gift back to God." And so
Wow.
I feel like creation is part of that. When we create beautiful things, we're kind of giving back to our world, right? We're giving back to the universe. So to have a yarn shop and have this place where people made, oh my God, beautiful things.
Beautiful.
Like,
Gorgeous.
stunning.
Gorgeous
And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about my customers.
And there is not, I mean, first of all, everybody likes different colors, right? Likes
Right,
different
right.
textures, different, I don't know, patterns or whatever. There has never been a time that I went in your shop and somebody didn't say, "That's really beautiful," whatever I was making.
Yeah. And it's genuine.
It is
'cause
genuine.
There's no reason to be fake about it
No.
because we're there because we love to be there.
Right.
Exactly.
So you
Exactly.
instantly had a bond with whoever was in there, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
you had this shared thing, which I think everybody needs community, right?
For
Like, no matter
sure.
what it
Absolutely.
is, gardening, cooking, singing, whatever, we all need to find our little.
And this might sound one-sided, I guess, but especially women.
For sure.
Because, and not saying that men don't need community, because they do, but especially for women, because there's so often in our lives where it's kind of like we become single. We're mothers, so we are the mother.
You get isolated.
responsible for our children, and yeah, you become isolated in that moment. There isn't like a village to support those types of things, and you built that, right?
Oh,
you
thank
built
you.
that.
Yes,
for
she
people.
really did. She really did. It was, again, you can say something nice to somebody on the street. I really like your purse. That's a cute outfit. And then you keep going,
Yeah.
right? You don't then stop and have a conversation. You don't have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and,
Right.
share space with that person. It's one comment, "Thank you, that made me feel nice," or "made me feel good," and they're gone. You never see them again. But in this situation where someone is complimenting something that you've created,
Right.
it's a whole different level. And then you add to that, you're going to sit down and continue to create whatever you're creating while you knit at that table with someone else who's making something else beautiful. And now you're both like, it's just a connection at a whole different level on multi levels.
And you feed off of each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And learn. People just learned by hanging out. People became good knitters because there were good knitters.
Yeah.
Which then made more good knitters. Like, it just,
For sure.
people fed off of each other, and yeah, it was a pretty great place. So
That's amazing.
But you know what's so really amazing? Like, you'd think I'd be all like, oh, my yarn shop. Like, I miss it.
I'm like that about you.
I know. I feel
I want to go now.
I
don't even knit.
Right now in my life, I had a rough, it's been a rough year. Let's just put it that way. I closed my shop after 15 years. My friend died. I had another young girl that died in my life, and it's been a rough year, but I'm kind of like, that was then. I did that for 15 years. No one can ever take it away from me. Like you said, Lisa, like, I hate to talk about myself, like I'm so great, but there is an impact, and I am responsible for part of that. Thank you. You're right. It does kind of carry on, especially, like I said, I run into my customers out in the community, and again, I don't know all their names, but I certainly know your face, and I know you've been in my shop, and I'm going to acknowledge you and let you know that,
I remember you.
I remember you. And who doesn't want that, right?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Every single one.
Everyone wants to be seen, and everyone, even like I said, I never knew this woman's name. We just never got that close. Again,
everybody turned into a great friend.
And that's okay.
Yeah, but I know that
customer.
face. I knew it after 15 years.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said it, she was like, yes. Like, and then I said my standard question, are you still knitting? Right? Because I really do want to know. And of course, they tell me what they're knitting on. And yeah, I think that is going to last for a while.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful story.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a fun place to hang out.
It sure
for
was.
Sure. Yeah.
It sure was. Well, I'm verklempt.
I know. I am too. Wow. I don't
follow your dreams, because people need them.
That.
Not just you need them, but other people need that too.
Right. You don't know. I always say, like, I don't know if you guys have talked. Well, I should know this because I've listened to all your episodes.
Come on, binge Ronda.
Oh, that's my name. Remember
Binge Ronda. Oh,
all right.
there you go.
BR. All right. Got it. Binge Ronda. So is there a podcast and chill? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Okay.
And we could make
we
one.
make it up?
We can make it.
We're going to decide what that means later on.
Oh, sorry.
Is this the PG version, or what? Where are we at right now?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Todd does have to listen. That's all I'm saying.
That is true. Now I don't remember what I was going to say or what
That's
we
all
were
right.
talking
Now
about.
you
Yeah.
are Now you are
You're
part of the
binge
club.
Ronda.
I'm binge Ronda.
If you can't remember what you were going to say, you're the club.
I do know what I was going to say. And by the way, your listeners should know we don't take any notes. We have nothing written down.
No, it's just a conversation.
It is. It's a conversation. What I was going to say was, we're all women of a certain age, and I remember a very young age. Right?
That sounds so distinguished.
I know. Well, that's how
natural fibers.
That's how I was going to say.
If Ronda doesn't stick, we'll call her natural
I
fibers.
was just going to say, that's how Tammy talks when I only carry natural fibers.
That's how she said it.
That's so not how I said it. But next time I say it, I am doing one of these. But,
That's funny.
what I was going to say was, I remember when I first got into my 40s and felt like I had like some wisdom, right? And and I remember thinking, God, if we could just give girls in their 20s the wisdom of women in their 40s, like women would rule the world, right? Like that's what I always thought. But just today I was thinking, I don't know if that's right, because I think we have to go through shit in our 20s, right? You have to go through it.
You have to earn that wisdom. You can't be given
knowledge and wisdom, I think, are two different things.
Absolutely.
We can give 20-year-olds knowledge, and we can say, do this, don't do this. I don't think we can give wisdom until you are where you need to be to get it, right?
Because words don't teach, experience does.
Right. And so when I think of 20-year-old binge Rhonda,
Oh dear. This is going.
That was a whole
Beyond
different kind of
PG.
binging.
no. When I think of the girl that I was in my 20s, I don't even know her.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
totally agree.
know her. I would never put up with the things that she put up with. I
Yep.
wouldn't live the life she lived. But I think it happens to us in our 20s for a reason. Number one, we have a lot more time, right? God willing.
Well, you also have a lot more resilience than perhaps you have when you're older as well.
Right.
I think you also just get to a point where you're like, I am not taking that anymore.
Exactly. I would
Yeah.
not tolerate the things that I
Right.
tolerated in my 20s. I would never stand for that now.
Right.
But it's just so interesting that I just don't recognize her. I don't know her at all. Which is okay,
I think
right?
that's called growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And absolutely it is.
So I say all the time, I don't know, like you were saying, job that doesn't bring me joy. That is not what we came here to do. We did come here to grow. We did come here to learn. So the fact that you don't recognize your 20-year-old self, that's a win.
Yeah, you're
Absolutely.
right.
That's a huge win.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Job well done.
And I survived it, right?
And you did. And it's not always easy. Sometimes you look back and think, oh,
Yeah, how did I get through that?
exactly. Right. But you do. And you take a little wisdom from that and move to the next phase of your life, the next chapter.
I'm really excited to know you more and to know that you have that spirit that I have no doubt that you are going to have a really exciting next chapter.
Oh,
She is.
Thank you so much.
I feel like
That's-
you're resting right now.
Yeah.
You're resting.
like truly.
Yep.
It's not a once and done thing
No.
for you.
Oh,
No, your spirit's way too big. You're not. You have too much to give.
oh, that's so sweet. I'm gonna hang out in the van more often.
Down by the river.
Down by the river.
Escape, but that's all right. The escape hatch.
Gotta hang out in the escape more often. Escape
Yeah.
hatch.
All right. Well, we probably should wrap this up then.
Oh, gosh.
Rhonda, thank you so much.
Sincerely.
Girls, this was amazing. Now I don't want to steal any thunder,
All right. All right.
but I would.
But-
But I would like to be the one that thanks Todd
Please.
Oh, wow.
He's gonna
oh, yeah.
love this.
Todd, you have to listen up.
if I could thank Todd, I do have a little radio crush on Todd, and I was wondering if he had a brother, but it turns out he doesn't. So, Todd, I just want to say thank you, Mind Garden Media, right, ladies, for all that you do for these lovely ladies.
That's
and,
very sweet.
I really did enjoy your episode with your cousins. Like,
Thank you.
yeah, at first, like when your husband first came on, it was kind of jarring to have like male energy. I mean, that's
I agree. I'll let him know.
it had nothing to do with him, but
I just
you gotta remember, I'm binge Ronda, so I had been
Right,
listening
right.
for hours. I mean, not
The
hours in a row,
divine
but
feminine was just
Yes.
surrounding you.
Yes.
it was jarring's rough. That's a rough word. It just kind of switched. Like
It
it was
did.
a little different.
Yeah,
But with
agreed.
Todd, and probably because you're cousins, but it felt a little. I just really liked how he interacted with the two of you.
Also, he's a little bit tricky. I didn't realize it in the moment. It wasn't until I listened to it myself afterwards. He turned into the interviewer, and we
did.
were the interviewees.
Yes.
That is not how this game is supposed to be played.
We had
Yeah,
that conversation
we did.
afterwards, and
Yeah.
I said, "Do you feel like you've been duped?"
He did a great job, but he does that for a living,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
so I get how it happened, but also he pulled
He's
a
a little
fast one.
tricky.
He's a little tricky, all right.
Yeah. Well,
Lucky we love him,
I enjoyed it.
Todd.
So does Mr. Rogers. Thank you as well to all of our listeners. We love when people binge on our episodes,
Absolutely.
and we watch that stuff. That's why we knew Binge
There's a
Ronda was
binger.
out
There's
there.
a binger. Oh, that's
So-
hilarious.
Thank you, all of you, for listening in and sharing your feedback. And as we had mentioned before, if you have thoughts, things that you want to share, things that
A topic we should dive into.
a topic or
Yeah.
or a story.
Yeah.
Like, please reach out to us. We
For
would
sure,
love
we'd
to hear
love
from
to
you.
hear from you. Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Well, till next time then.
Thanks again, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.